The Sharp Edge on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Maizex Seeds.
Bernard Tobin here for another episode of The Sharp Edge, joined again by Greg Stewart, Maizex agronomist. How's it going?
It's going well. It's a beautiful day.
We are in Woodstock, Ontario, with Wes Hart on his farm and his father's farm. Why is Wes on The Sharp Edge?
Well, we want to talk about strip till, which is one of our favorite topics, or at least one of my favorite topics. But today we focus on how do you make it work with soybeans. And Wes and his dad, Doug, are not afraid of thinking the system through and not afraid of modifying equipment to make it work. That's what we're going to look at today. Twin row soybeans in a strip till world.
Here's Wes Hart.
Hey, Wes. So you made a move to strip till. Tell me a little bit about what brought that about.
I went to strip till. We wanted to get away from full width tillage. We had always planted our corn no-till, and so we knew that sort of system worked. But the beans, we tried a system that we were kind of no-tilling them in, and it wasn't quite getting what we were wanting. So we went to full proper strip till with a soil warrior that we bought last year.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your approach then on the beans. You've moved to twin row on the beans. My understanding was the strips are never wide enough to really nicely fit twins on. How did you make that happen?
What we did is, part of the reason we picked the soil warrior was because it's a mild steel machine, and we were able to modify that machine. So we built some spacers on ours and turned the strips out to 13 inches, which is a little wider than ideal, but it allows us to get the two twin rows of beans in there.
So you got a fall strip or a spring strip or maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah, we're doing both. On the bean ground last fall, coming into beans for this year, we did do a fall strip on everything. We did a few test strips without a fall pass, and we found it worked pretty well. So this fall we're going to try and do about 50-50 fall pass and the other 50 just a spring pass.
But the key thing, I guess, then is this 13-inch wide strip that now you can fit your twin row beans on there.
That's right, yeah. So the twins are in a 7.5-inch spacing on 30s. And we put narrow gauge wheels on the planter to allow us to have a nice ride on that worked soil.
Right, so you said planter. You can buy twin row planters, you can modify a drill to make it work. How did you make your twin row planter fit down to 7.5s?
Well, what we have is a Deere 1790. It was a 1224 unit. And so what we did is we built some offset plates and moved all the rear row units over 7.5 inches. So each front row unit has a trailing row unit behind it now at 7.5.
But those easily lock up so you can still plant corn with the same planter?
Yeah, for corn we go back to 30 inches, and on the wings on the 1790 they lift up and lock, and the rear frame, center frame units, they have individual locks, so you can lift them up out of the way as well.
How did that work then this spring, putting twins on the strip with your modified planter?
It worked pretty well. There's a bit of a learning curve to it. The GPS really helps a lot. I still have a few GPS issues every year, as everybody does, but we're getting a handle on it. I think implement guidance would be the ultimate, but it's a little cost prohibitive at the moment. It worked pretty well though, really getting on the strip, and you can see from the cab when you're looking back in auto steer, sometimes you need to do a little nudge here and there, but the beans don't mind.
So, what's the pros and cons from your perspective now on your twin row system in beans?
Pros from planter's really nice compared to the air seeder. We used to use an air seeder to plant with. Moving from there, you go into spraying, and spraying twin row beans is much nicer than spraying a 15-inch row bean. You can't cut between the rows with 15s. So with the twins, it's real nice. You can get down there with the sprayer without tramping beans, less disease pressure that way. We're getting better airflow throughout the growing season, and I think at fall at dry down, we're getting a little bit better dry down.
And any downside then, other than maybe a little more tricky on the planting side?
There's details to figure out. One of the things on the planter, because all of our trailing row units are all on the same side, our row cleaner is all offset to that side. Right. So you get a little bit of implement drift, I think, doing that. It's part of the whole systems approach that guys talk about with strip till, though. It's a whole part and parcel thing. You got to figure it all out together.
I guess one of the nice things now is that your tillage system lines up pretty nicely with both corn and beans. You don't have to switch to no-till beans or some other. Your tillage and planting for corn and beans now sort of mesh together better.
Yeah, and actually this spring we had to do a little bit of that flipping with all the wet fields around. Sometimes we were looking to move fields, and you could do that because a strip's a strip, and they're all on 30-inch centers, and that was nice.
So there you have it. twin row beans on 30-inch centers, Greg. What about population? Enough?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing we heard today, is that if you're in the deep southwest of Ontario, you can put a single row on top of your strip and make it work, because you've got the season to work with and the bean varieties that are big and branchy. You start moving north in Ontario, we're here at Woodstock, I'd say that you've got to have the twin rows in order to get enough population and enough canopy to maximize yield.
What about that strip? I mean, corn, we always have 7 and 11 inches, but Wes is out to 13.
Right. Well, and I guess the key there, move the strip tiller out to build you a wider strip, so now you can plant the twins right in that strip. I like that. I get a little bit suspect about the narrow strips and then planting twin row beans that are just riding along the edges of that strip. Wes has moved those bean rows right into the heart of the strip. That seems to make sense to me.
Another great episode of The Sharp Edge. Thanks for taking the time.
Good to be with you.
See you next time.
Take care.